At the wedding rehearsal dinner, the hall was full of laughter, music, and the smell of food. Everyone was dressed up, waiting to celebrate my sister Lily's big day. She sat beside her fiancé, Ethan, smiling nervously, her fingers twisting together the way they always did when she was anxious. I kept watching her because I knew she was worried about something, though she hadn't told me exactly what. Then Ethan's mother, Mrs. Wallace, stood up. She was a tall woman with a sharp face and the kind of presence that made the whole room go silent. She tapped her glass with a fork and looked straight at Lily. At first, I thought she was about to make a toast. Instead, her words cut through the air like knives. "You look lovely tonight, Lily," she said in a cold tone, "but beauty can't hide the truth. You are not good enough for my son. You are nothing but trash." The room froze. Lily's face turned pale, her smile vanishing instantly. I saw her shoulders stiffen as though she had been slapped. People gasped quietly, unsure if they had heard correctly. Ethan's face went red, but he didn't move, didn't say a word. He just looked down at his plate. Before Lily could even find her voice, Mrs. Wallace pulled a folded envelope from her purse and slammed it onto the table in front of her. "If you want to marry my son, you'll sign this," she declared. "It's a prenup. You will never touch a cent of our family's money. You will never claim anything that doesn't belong to you." Lily's hands shook as she stared at the papers. I could see tears threatening to spill, but she held them back. My heart broke watching her sit there, trapped in humiliation, with every eye in the room fixed on her. This was supposed to be her moment of happiness, the night she should have felt love and support. Instead, she was being torn down in front of everyone by the very woman who was supposed to welcome her into the family. I clenched my fists under the table. I wanted to shout, to defend her, to drag Mrs. Wallace out of the hall for what she had done. But I held myself back, waiting for Ethan. He was the one who needed to speak, to protect his bride. But Ethan remained silent, his jaw tight, his hand tapping nervously on the table. That silence was louder than his mother's cruelty. Lily finally found the strength to whisper, "Why are you doing this to me? I love your son." Her voice cracked, the words trembling like broken glass. Mrs. Wallace's expression didn't soften. "Love?" she scoffed. "Love doesn't pay bills. Love doesn't protect a family's legacy. I will not let my son throw his life away for a woman like you." The room felt like it was spinning. Everyone pretended to look down at their food, pretending not to watch, but I knew they were all listening. My sister was being humiliated in front of an entire room, and her future husband wouldn't even lift a finger to stop it. At that moment, I realized something. If I didn't stand up for Lily, no one would. Lily has always been the kind of person who puts others before herself. She is my younger sister, but sometimes she feels like the older one because of how much she sacrifices. After our father left when we were teenagers, it was Lily who picked up the pieces for our mother. She worked part-time jobs while studying just to help pay the bills. She never complained, never blamed anyone, just smiled through the pain. That smile, though, was fragile. If you looked closely, you could always see the sadness hiding behind it. When Lily met Ethan 3 years ago, it felt like her prayers had finally been answered. Ethan came from a wealthy family, and unlike the men Lily had dated before, he seemed gentle, respectful, and stable. For the first time, she allowed herself to dream of a life where she wasn't struggling. She believed Ethan loved her for who she was, not for what she lacked. I wanted to believe it too, though I always had doubts about his family. From the very beginning, Mrs. Wallace made her disapproval clear. She never yelled or caused scenes at first, but she had this way of making Lily feel small. She would compliment her with backhanded remarks like, "You're very pretty for someone who didn't go to a real university," or, "It's sweet how you work so hard even though you don't have much." Lily brushed them off, telling me not to worry. She said, "She'll come around once she knows me better." But I saw the truth in Lily's eyes. Every word from that woman left a bruise that Lily tried to hide. Ethan was caught in the middle. Sometimes he defended Lily, telling his mother to stop, but most of the time, he stayed quiet. He told Lily to give her time or ignore her. Lily, desperate to keep the peace, listened. She thought love meant patience, that if she kept proving herself, one day she'd be accepted. I didn't agree. To me, It felt like Lily was setting herself up to be hurt, but what could I do? She was in love, and love often makes people blind. As the wedding approached, things became more complicated. Lily wanted a small, intimate ceremony with family and close friends, but Mrs. Wallace insisted on something grand. She wanted to invite business partners, wealthy acquaintances, and people Lily didn't even know. The wedding stopped being about love and started to feel like a show. Every time Lily tried to push back, Ethan sided with his mother. He said, "She just wants the best for us," even though anyone could see it was about control. Our mother noticed too. She worried quietly, pulling me aside one night. "Are you sure this marriage will bring Lily happiness?" she asked me. Her voice was soft, full of the kind of fear only a mother carries. I didn't know what to say. I wanted to protect my sister, but she was so convinced Ethan was her forever. I didn't want to crush her dreams. Behind all the planning and the smiling faces, there was tension. Lily was under so much stress, trying to balance her love for Ethan with the coldness from his family. She cried sometimes at night when she thought no one was listening. She told me she just wanted to be loved and respected. She wasn't marrying Ethan for his money or his family's name. She truly believed in their love. For me, the stakes were different. I wasn't the one getting married, but I felt responsible for Lily. She had always been my rock, and now it was my turn to be hers. Watching her walk into this marriage meant trusting Ethan to protect her, and I wasn't sure he could. I had seen too many moments where he chose silence over standing up for her. And if he couldn't defend her before marriage, what would happen after? Ethan himself was a complicated man. He wasn't cruel, not in the way his mother was, but he was weak. He wanted peace at any cost, even if that peace came at Lily's expense. I think he loved her, but his love was not strong enough to go against his family. He grew up in wealth, where appearances mattered more than feelings, and he didn't know what it meant to fight for someone. As for Mrs. Wallace, she was used to getting her way. Her family name carried weight in the community, and she had built her life on control. To her, Lily was a threat, someone who didn't come from the same world, someone she couldn't shape or brag about. She saw Lily as a stain on her perfect image, and she would rather humiliate her than accept her. So here we were, the night before the wedding, with everything hanging in the balance. Lily believed tomorrow would be the happiest day of her life. She dreamed of walking down the aisle, of finally being accepted, of proving that love was enough. But after what happened at that dinner, I wasn't sure if her dream would survive. The next morning, the day of the wedding, the house was buzzing with excitement. Makeup artists, hairstylists, and family members were rushing around. Lily sat quietly in her room in her white gown, looking like a princess but with worry in her eyes. I could tell she was trying to push away the memory of last night, trying to believe that once she said, "I do," everything would fall into place. Then Ethan came in. He looked uneasy, his tie still loose, his eyes darting around the room. He asked to speak to Lily alone, so I stepped outside, though I stayed close enough to listen. What I heard made my heart sink. "Lily," he said softly, "I need you to sign the papers my mother gave you yesterday." There was silence, then Lily's shaky voice. "You're serious? You really expect me to sign a prenup on my wedding day?" Ethan sighed heavily. "It's just to make my mother feel secure. It doesn't mean I don't love you. Once you sign it, she'll back off, and we can move on." I pressed my ear closer to the door, my chest burning with anger. After everything that happened last night, he was still choosing his mother over Lily. Lily's voice grew firmer. "Ethan, you stood there and let her call me trash. You didn't defend me. And now you're asking me to sign away my rights, like I don't matter? How can you do this to me?" Ethan's tone hardened. "If you love me, you'll do it. Don't make this bigger than it is." There it was, a choice, a moment that could change everything. I couldn't stay quiet any longer. I pushed the door open and stepped inside. "Are you hearing yourself, Ethan?" I snapped. "You're about to marry my sister, and instead of standing by her, you're bending to your mother's will. Do you even love her? Or do you just want someone who will obey your family?" Ethan's face flushed red. "This is none of your business," he said sharply. But Lily's eyes were on me, full of tears. She whispered, "It is her business. She's the only one who has been protecting me through all of this." For the first time, Ethan's mask slipped. His silence wasn't just weakness. It was choice. He was choosing comfort over courage, his mother over the woman he claimed to love. That was the moment Lily realized the truth. The man she wanted to spend forever with was not going to fight for her. The wedding dress, the flowers, the music, it all meant nothing if she had to beg for respect. She stood up slowly, her veil slipping off her head and falling to the floor. Her hands trembled, but her voice was steady. If I have to sign a paper to prove my worth, then I'm marrying the wrong man. The room went dead silent. Ethan's mouth opened, but no words came out. He just stood there, frozen. That was the moment everything changed. The wedding should have started by now, but instead the air was thick with whispers and tension. Guests were beginning to notice the delay. Some shifted in their seats, others murmured to each other, wondering why the bride hadn't appeared. Inside the bridal room, Lily sat on the edge of the bed, her gown spread around her like broken wings. Her face was pale, her eyes swollen from holding back tears. Ethan stood across from her, his hands buried in his pockets. His voice was low but sharp. Do you really want to humiliate me in front of everyone? My family, my friends, our entire community is out there waiting. And you're making this about a piece of paper. Lily's voice cracked as she answered. It's not just a piece of paper, Ethan. It's what it represents. You're asking me to give up my dignity to make your mother happy. Before he could respond, the door swung open. Mrs. Wallace walked in without knocking, her heels clicking against the floor. She looked at Lily with a smug expression, as though she had already won. Has she signed yet? She asked, ignoring the tension. When she saw Lily's silence, her smile turned cruel. Of course she hasn't. Women like her never know their place until it's forced on them. I stepped forward, my anger boiling over. You have no right to speak to her like that. You're destroying your own son's happiness. Mrs. Wallace's eyes cut to me like knives. Happiness? My son's happiness is tied to his future, to his reputation, to the name he carries. And she pointed at Lily, will never be worthy of that. Ethan didn't say a word. He just stood there, staring at the floor. That silence was worse than his mother's insults. It was betrayal, pure and simple. He had promised Lily forever, but when it mattered most, he abandoned her. Lily's hands shook as she clutched her dress. Her voice was trembling, but steady enough to be heard. Ethan, if you love me, tell her to stop. Just once, choose me. The pause that followed felt endless. Ethan finally lifted his head, but instead of defending Lily, he said softly, Mom, maybe we can talk about this later. Those words cut deeper than any insult. He didn't defend her, not even then. He just wanted to delay the fight, to pretend everything was fine. Lily's face broke. Tears finally spilled down her cheeks, and I knew something inside her had cracked. She was no longer just hurt, she was shattered, and I couldn't stand to watch it any longer. I turned to Mrs. Wallace. You've made your point, but one day this cruelty will come back to you. And when it does, you'll realize you destroyed your own son's chance at real love. The tension in the room was unbearable. The wedding was falling apart, and the truth was clear. Ethan was not the man Lily thought he was. This was the breaking point, and there was no turning back. The guests were already restless, some whispering loudly now, wondering if the wedding was even going to happen. In the bridal room, the air felt heavy, almost suffocating. Lily stood in her white gown, her tears drying into silent strength. Ethan shifted nervously, and his mother stood with folded arms, her face cold and proud. Finally, Lily lifted her head. Her voice was quiet but firm. If I marry you today, Ethan, I'll be marrying into a family that sees me as less than human. I can't do that to myself. Mrs. Wallace let out a bitter laugh. So dramatic. Do you think you'll ever find better than my son? Do you think anyone else will want you after this scandal? Without us, you are nothing. You'll go back to your cheap job and your small life. Her words cut through the room, but Lily didn't flinch this time. Instead, she looked at Ethan. And what about you? Do you agree with her? Ethan swallowed hard, sweat forming on his forehead. Lily, I love you, but my mother's right about protecting the family. It's not personal. It's just business. That was it. The final blow. He wasn't just weak. He was willing to throw her under the bus to protect his image. I stepped forward, my chest burning with rage.
No, Ethan.
It is personal. You've let your mother humiliate Lily over and over, and now you're showing us who you really are. You don't deserve her." The door suddenly burst open, and to everyone's shock, our mother walked in. She had been looking for us, sensing something was wrong. Her eyes fell on Lily's tear-stained face, then on Mrs. Wallace standing like a queen. "What is happening here?" she demanded, her voice sharp. For a moment no one spoke. Then Mrs. Wallace smirked. "Your daughter refuses to sign a prenup. She thinks she's entitled to everything my family built." Our mother's face hardened. "Entitled? My daughter has worked harder than anyone I know. She doesn't need your money. She wanted love, not wealth." Mrs. Wallace rolled her eyes. "Love is useless without power. Your daughter is nothing but a burden." That was when our mother lost her calm. "A burden?" she snapped. "Do you know how many nights my daughter worked double shifts to take care of this family after her father left? Do you know the sacrifices she made? She is worth more than all the money in your bank." Lily's eyes filled with tears again, but this time they were not from weakness. They were from hearing the truth spoken out loud, the truth she had always hidden in silence. Then came the twist no one expected. One of Ethan's cousins, who had been standing at the door, suddenly stepped inside. "Aunt Margaret," he said, addressing Mrs. Wallace, "stop pretending this is about protecting the family. Everyone knows why you're doing this." The room went still. Mrs. Wallace's eyes narrowed. "What are you talking about?" The cousin's voice was steady. "Because you don't want Ethan to marry for love. You want him tied to the Collins family, the one with the business merger. You've been planning to use him as a pawn." Ethan's head jerked toward his mother, shock written all over his face. "Is that true?" Mrs. Wallace's lips tightened, but she didn't deny it. "Ethan, everything I do is for your future. Marrying Lily would be throwing it away." There it was, the betrayal laid bare. It wasn't just about Lily not being good enough. It was about control, about money, about power. Ethan's face twisted with confusion and anger. "You lied to me. You said it was about protecting me, but all this time it was about your business deal." Mrs. Wallace snapped back. "I raised you. I gave you everything you have. Don't you dare question me." But Ethan had already broken. He looked at Lily, guilt all over his face. "I should have defended you. I should have stood up for us. But I was too afraid of her. And now I've lost you." Lily's voice was calm, almost too calm. "Yes, you have. Because love without respect is nothing. You let me be humiliated, Ethan. I can forgive mistakes, but I cannot marry a man who won't fight for me." The room went silent. Ethan looked shattered, his shoulders slumped, his eyes begging for a second chance. But Lily had found her strength. She reached up, pulled off the ring from her finger, and placed it in his palm. "You need to grow into a man before you can be a husband," she whispered. Gasps echoed from the hall outside as guests began to realize the wedding was collapsing. Mrs. Wallace's face turned pale, her victory slipping away before her eyes. She opened her mouth to speak, but Lily turned to her with a steady gaze. "You tried to break me," Lily said, her voice strong. "But all you did was show me who truly loves me and who doesn't. I will not marry into a family that sees me as trash. I deserve better than this, and I will find it." With that, Lily lifted her gown and walked out of the room, her head high. For the first time in years, she wasn't shrinking under anyone's shadow. She was free, and for the first time Mrs. Wallace had no words. Wedding guests were already whispering when Lily stepped out of the bridal room without Ethan by her side. Her gown trailed behind her, but she didn't look broken anymore. She looked strong, like a woman who had finally made a choice for herself. The hall went silent as she walked past the crowd. Some people gasped, others shook their heads in shock, but Lily kept moving, her chin held high. Our mother and I followed close behind her. I could see the tears still on her cheeks, but they were no longer from pain. They were the tears of someone letting go of a heavy weight. Outside the hall, she stopped and took a deep breath. Her hands were trembling, but her eyes were steady. "I thought today was going to be the best day of my life," she whispered. "But maybe walking away is the best thing I've ever done." I put my arm around her. "You didn't lose anything today, Lily. You saved yourself. You proved that you're worth more than their money and their games." Later that evening, the news had already spread through town. People talked about how the bride had walked away, how she had chosen her dignity over wealth. Some criticized, some admired her courage. But Lily didn't care what they said. For the first time in years, she slept peacefully, knowing she hadn't betrayed herself. In the days that followed, Ethan tried to call her. He sent long messages, begging for another chance, saying he had realized his mistake. But Lily didn't answer. She told me quietly one night, if he loved me enough, he would have stood up for me when it mattered. I can't give my heart to someone who only finds his voice after it's too late. Mrs. Wallace also tried to save face. She told people that Lily had been unstable, that she wasn't ready for marriage. But the truth was already out. Too many people had seen the way she treated Lily, and her mask of control was cracking. For once, she was the one who looked small in the eyes of the community. As for Lily, she began to heal. She returned to work, focused on herself, and slowly built back her confidence. She started spending more time with friends, laughing again, living without fear of judgment. Our mother often told her, "Your real husband will be the man who stands beside you, not behind his mother. And when the time is right, you'll find him." One afternoon, I found Lily sitting on the porch, looking out at the sunset. She smiled at me, her eyes brighter than they had been in a long time. "I used to think marriage was the only way to prove I was enough," she said softly. "But now I know. I was always enough. With or without a husband, I am not trash. I am worthy." And in that moment, I knew she had won. Weeks passed, and life slowly returned to normal. The noise of the failed wedding faded, but the lesson it left behind remained strong. Lily no longer walked with her head bowed. She carried herself with quiet confidence, like someone who had survived a storm and come out stronger on the other side. One evening, we were sitting together on the porch, the sky painted in shades of orange and pink. The breeze was soft, and for the first time in a long while, there was peace in her eyes. She turned to me and said, "You know, I thought losing Ethan would break me. But it didn't. It saved me. Because I didn't lose love, I found myself." Her words hit me deeply. I realized that the greatest victory wasn't walking away from Ethan or his cruel mother. It was Lily finally seeing her own worth. She didn't need anyone's approval, not even the man she thought she loved. That night, she took off the last piece of jewelry Ethan had given her, a bracelet she had kept tucked away. She placed it on the table and whispered, "This chapter is closed." Then she smiled, not the forced smile I had seen so many times, but a real one, full of light. Watching her, I felt proud. Proud that she had chosen herself. Proud that she had refused to be broken. Life wouldn't be easy, but she was stronger now, and she knew it. As the sun dipped below the horizon, Lily leaned against me and said, "One day, I'll love again. But this time, it will be someone who fights for me. Until then, I'm enough." And in that quiet moment, I knew the story wasn't about a ruined wedding or a broken engagement. It was about a woman who found her voice, her strength, and her freedom. And that was the true beginning of her happily ever after.